Here is what we know so far. It's expanding, spending is surging, and the market is evolving. And here is what we think we know. IT departments will spend nearly 27% of their budget on it by 2016. And by 2020, there will be 50 million devices in the world, possibly vying for access. But the cloud, the ambiguous title bestowed upon the remote and networked computer model transforming the digital landscape, has really only just begun to influence the ways in which we live and work.
For many, the cloud is still just an abstract concept. Sure, we can access email, music, and documents remotely, but most of us have yet to see a real dramatic change in the way we do things. And while it is easy to contemplate the possibilities with this digital migration, just what does this massive decentralization of data mean for the way we work and interact with one another?
Stories from people that we pull from the web.
For Tucker Fort, a partner at Smart Design, a global innovation and consulting firm with offices in New York, San Francisco, and Barcelona, the arrival of cloud computing has dramatically altered the way he and his team conduct research. With the cloud, the firm has the freedom to open its data and trend analysis process well beyond the confines of the office.
And so we find that these cloud-based tools, things like Evernote, creating specific secure blogs for projects, allow us to gather quite rich content wherever we may be. And so those different types of inputs can come together to create something that is much richer than you might usually find if you were to say, looking through magazines, looking for patterns of behavior, or even in design trends and things like that.
Across the river, the cloud is providing tremendous relief for interior design students in Brooklyn. Pratt Institute Associate Professor Deborah Schneiderman says students have moved much of their computer rendering work, a traditionally heavy lift for the processor of a localized computer, to the university's cloud-based render farm.
So rather than the students using their own computer or a lab computer to render something for many, many hours, their work is rendered in the cloud. It's powered by multiple computers, and then the students aren't held up. They can continue to work on their projects.
But Schneiderman adds that while this remote workflow is opening entirely new design possibilities for the students, the freedom does open new challenges. And like Tucker Fort at Smart Design, the challenge comes with what the students do with the increased volume of data.
I think that they need to learn to edit. They have to really cull through all of the information that's out there and curate.
These cloud-based tools are really great for gathering and having these kind of databases of all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is make connections between many different types of inputs. And that's where the digital tools really aren't there yet to really help us make sense of everything that we've gathered.
And this, atop security, efficiency, and systemic design concerns, is one of the major questions surrounding the promise of cloud computing for designer Rajesh Bilamoria.
There's a limit to how much information we can process. And so if we have too many choices, quite simply, we just shut down and don't make a decision.
As Vice President of Program Design for the global innovation and design consultancy Continuum, Rajesh spends much of his time pondering the ways in which users interact with the products and services that surround them. And he says, while the cloud is providing tremendous opportunities for innovation, there are some fundamental questions companies should ask themselves as they make the transition.
As things migrate to the cloud, there can be trade-offs that we don't necessarily appreciate in full depth until it's much later. And social networks perhaps provide another good example of this, that they are certainly useful tools used by literally hundreds of millions of people to keep in touch and communicate. And there is good communication happening there. But there are other types of communication that are not happening there. And so I think this wraps into the theme of what is the experience we're trying to provide? What is the experience that we're trying to provide each other, and how do we make that good? How does it have a lot of fidelity? And for companies, I think the implication is even greater. To understand, as they provide a new, more convenient way to do something, certainly the emphasis can be on the benefit, but we also need to be thoughtful about what it is that we're taking away. What is the trade-off for that convenience?
And so perhaps this is what we may never know about the cloud. As we continue our migration, will we be capable of understanding just what it means to move further and further away from our information? And ultimately, will this transition be worth it? Christopher Booker, Financial Times, New York.